I'm John Shrek McPhee, the Sheriff of Baghdad. This is SOB Podcast, Calls from Quarantine. I'm here today. Our guest this week is a very long-time friend of mine, my man Ed, and Ed was my CCT guy and CCT guy for my squadron, among other squadrons and units. Ed, let the guys know a little something about yourself.
Okay, buddy. Can you hear me all right?
All good.
Okay. Hey, this is Ed. I'm a career combat controller. Like Shrek said, I was assigned to his unit and supporting some Navy dudes as well from a pretty cool Air Force unit that supported both. I got to spend a lot of time with both of them, probably 14 deployments from the kickoff. I was really fortunate. I finished up my operator training course, did my first alert cycle, and the war kicked off. So I got to do the invasion of Afghanistan with some Navy dudes, and I got to do the invasion of Iraq with some Army dudes, and I got to hang out with Shrek just after my invasion of Afghanistan. Got to play around doing a lot of direct action stuff, got some advanced forces operations stuff, got some jungle stuff, whole lot of desert mobility stuff, and just had a wonderful opportunity to sort of see everything that I ever wanted to see, I think. And a lot of great experiences with, honestly, the best dudes you could ever, want to get to work with. So very blessed in that respect. That's enough for me for now. Go ahead, Shrek.
No, it's all good. Look, the reason I called you was I get asked a lot about, guys joining the Air Force, going to be CCT, what the unit thinks about CCT, and I figured, hey man, what a better way to, drink where the water comes out of the ground, you know what I mean? I'd also say this is, I think, I'm a lifer as well, just like you, and I think, a lot of times when guys don't go the full distance, they have a little bit different view on stuff. You know what I mean? Some guys get out early, they're a little bitter, whatever, right? Yeah. I think most of the time, guys that are, what we call true believers, no matter what, no matter how good or bad, you're going the distance here. It's always good to talk to those guys, cause, and I said this with George last week, I said, I was like, most of the time, the guy you're listening to about selection or about being a cool guy fucking failed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? So, a lot of times, guys just don't kind of hear the wisdom or the stories from guys like us because, who goes out in circulation is the guy that don't make it. And they're really controlling the narrative on all this. And that's why, I really wanted to talk to you because of the CCT Ed, right? So, okay. You came to work for us. And I'll tell you this is I definitely want to talk to you about your desert mobility because that was a great trip, by the way.
Okay.
One I wish I was on. But, what are your thoughts about, you were, you joined the Air Force, you went CCT. Tell us about being a CCTer, at the highest level. How's that? What's that?
Okay. Well, I can tell you, man, it's shit's so stinking cool. I really enjoyed a couple things about being a controller. A couple of unique things. If I'm on an ODA or an assault team with guys like you, there's a bunch of the highest level performers on the planet without trying to blow you off too much. So, you're just surrounded with some really, really good dudes. But, I like the fact that I got to do something just a little different than everybody else around me. I honestly sort of appreciated the fact that it was either, if I didn't figure it out, then things were going to go sort of sideways. And I like being sort of the expert and getting a say in how I did things. Because if I was another guy in the train, well, there's always going to be somebody else in the train that knows exactly what to do. And I was just that different guy, so I got to apply my airmanship skills to your problem set, to meet the ground force commander's intent. And I really just, I just appreciated the being a little different, because I sort of, I like the autonomy to get to solve problems my way. Not that I'm some sort of, rebel. But I do enjoy somebody just handing me a problem and getting to sort through it, sort of like a chess game or something like that.
Yeah, you said over. I like that, by the way. Yeah. There's some Air Force lingo for you folks that listening at home. Yeah, man, look, at times, guys were mad at me throughout my years, like a CCT or commander or medics or whoever, right? Because it was like, get fucking behind us. You're not going through the door first. We don't need that, right? And to some guys' ego, that's really offensive. But, what some guys don't understand is, if this turns to shit real quick, how the fuck are we calling for bombs to save our asses if we got you shot first, right? So, or the medic, like, who's gonna save us? The medic goes fucking down. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, guys are always like wanting to lead from the front, and I get it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, for me, when you come with us, it was always like, please don't get shot, because I can't do what you do, and we really, and we're really gonna fucking need that here, probably, right? So
So,
and I think guys don't understand that, and I think because guys don't understand that, they always feel like there's a separation, like it's us against them, or who's the coolest, or who's whatever, and it was just like, to me, it was always like, I look at like commanders, anyone carrying a radio, you guys, the medic, fucking EOD guys. Like, I always seen those guys as like, it's like having gold. You don't want to show anyone you got gold because you might get robbed, but there's going to be a time where you want something and you're going to need the gold to get whatever you want. And that's kind of, that's how I always viewed that stuff. And the truth is like, as much as I considered myself a professional and a problem solver and everything within my realm, when it comes time to do, the kinetic strike, the JDAMs, like, I'm looking at you like, yo, you got this. And I expect you to be, even though I may not understand or know what you're saying on the radio or doing, I expect you to be at that same level.
Yeah. And then I think that's sort of why I appreciated it so much is, you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. You always want to surround yourself with people that are better than you. And I felt like, you guys kept the bar high, and I really honestly didn't want to ever let you down. And that makes you better. And when you know that you're the only guy that does what you do, you better not let those guys down. And I think that there's a respectful humility, I think, that you get over the years by seeing, the rest of your team doing what they're doing and how they approach things. And then you just have to go, hey man, if I'm the baker, I better bake a good cake. And, you're going to need the ice cream with it too. So you better bring the guy along that makes the ice cream as good as he can. And that party's going to be a little better with cake and ice cream than just cake, right? And you better damn well be able to cook the cake.
For real,
that was
right?
a stupid ass analogy, but,
No. Look. Yeah, you nailed it on the head. Is, I think, the biggest motivational factor, right, isn't that you wear an American flag on your uniform, because even though proud of that, that's not my biggest motivating factor. The biggest motivating factor isn't that, I'm I'm the baddest motherfucker out there and I'm, the highest levels of the military, because that didn't motivate me. I think what motivates most guys, and this goes back to World War II, is the fear of letting, a brother down, right? The fear of, failing, your comrades, your brothers, your coworkers, whatever you want to call them. You know what I mean? And one of those guys get hurt because you couldn't do your job. Like, I think that is the biggest motivational factor in the brotherhood. And the reason I call it a brotherhood is because, well, we had, you with Air Force guys. So it's not all Army guys all the time, right? Like, and I think that's the biggest factor. And that's the first thing you said. And that's, I think, such powerful words, because if you listen to any D-Day stories, guys running across the beach because he's scared someone else is going to get hurt.
Exactly it, man. If you drop the ball, it ain't about you getting hurt. It's about, man, the mission just ain't getting done. And,
for real.
And you're letting your bros down.
Yeah. And then what happens? You know what I mean? Like, who knows? Because, we were always in a position to luckily be able to pull this off with good planning and experienced guys and knowing, the enemy and the terrain so I can only imagine, like, fuck, man, if shit would have went wrong, like, I don't even want to think about it.
Well, I don't suspect that it always went right by any stretch, but
no, but
some amount of adaptability and experience to rely on.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think there's a lot of times where shit could have been a ton worse. You know what I mean? Like, even though it wasn't great for us, it could have been worse as well, right? And that's kind of like, that's the motivation. So, okay, my first question, and I get asked this all the time. 18-year-old, just graduates high school, right? Why should he be a CCTer or a PJ, right? Because PJs are kind of with you guys as well. Like, why would a guy want to join the Air Force and be a CCTer?
So I tell you, it's kind of a funny story when we go back to mine. The reason why I did, because I said that I was a 24-year combat controller. I actually started off working on nuclear cruise missiles.
Bus driver, come on, spit it out, bus driver.
I was a nuclear cruise missile mechanic, and boy, it sucked. I fell for everything that the recruiter told me. But at the time, when I came in, I wasn't the beast of a man that I am today. I was a little bitty guy that got a growth spurt really, really late at about 23. So it was about 120 pounds, and man, 5'8" and 120. So think about that, like your little sister probably, hopefully. So, man, I wanted to come in. I wanted to work for the Air Force for a little bit, and then I wanted to get out and go work for Boeing. And I went to my first duty station, found out that cruise missiles suck. You go there and you never PCS, so you never change station ever again, and you never even go TDY for your entire career, like literally not once. So I started dating a girl, really cool, good girl. She was from the next town over. I started dating her, and luckily she had a little brother that wanted to be a goddamn Navy SEAL. So I said, you know what? Never heard of that, but it seems cool enough. He and I became better friends than she was a girlfriend. I mean, she was a fantastic girl, but I just wasn't there at that point in my life. So I started working out with him, and he's like, man, does Air Force have anything like that? I don't know. So I went and looked, and went to the recruiter, and they said, man, we've got this thing. It's called pararescue. It wasn't a recruiter. It was an NPF, so the personnel flight. And you just look through a book, and there's the job listings, and the only one thing that I found was pararescue. And I said, well, let me go and do that. She's like, well, you don't want to do that. Nobody ever gets through that, so pick out another job. Well, let me try it. So I submitted my package, had to get some, quite a few different waivers and everything, and then I finally went to selection, It was really fucking hard, John. Had about over a 90% washout rate. So, I went there and, did my first team, got to the final eval and fucking failed. So I had to start over from the beginning. Another 3 months, got to the final eval on my second go and my legs went out on me. I had, stress fractures and a bunch of stuff there. So I spent, 4 months on crutches and then, they PCS'd me from one shitty place to a lot shittier place in Minot, North Dakota, with some of the best friends in my life there. And got off the crutches in about 4 months. I had to, they didn't have an outdoor, or they didn't have an indoor pool at, Minot Air Force Base, and it's up in, in the middle of North Dakota. So I would break into the community college pool, or it wasn't a community college, the university pool, downtown in Minot, the big city of Minot. I'd block a window open and, during the day, and then I'd sneak in at night through that window and go swim in the dark, because a good part of our selection was like a pre-scuba. It was really, really hard, water confidence stuff. Quite a bit of PT. But the water confidence was a beast. So I would just go and swim for a few hours every night in the college pool there. Got back in shape again. Ended up drowning myself one time. Luckily, it was one of the few times that I had a friend with me. And, I snuck him in. He was getting kind of interested about doing it. And I was walking him through ways to be able to hold his breath longer. And, kind of build his confidence up in the water, because he wasn't going very far. He couldn't swim 50 meters underwater. So, I said, man, just climb down on this ladder and hold your breath and I'll time you. Because he tried to do a 25 meter underwater. He came up about halfway, which is ridiculous. Right. And I said, okay, man, I'll time you. So he climbed down the ladder, got a good breath hold, and he held his breath for like 3 times as long as he did, just doing the underwater. So I said, I showed him the stopwatch and I said, man, it's all in your fucking head. It's all in your head. So, okay. So then, I was having a good air day, I thought, which is, when you feel like your lungs are like 3 times the size. And I said, man, watch this. I was trying to show off a little bit, showing how awesome I was. So, like a dipstick, I hyperventilated a little bit. So I took a lot of breaths pretty quick. And then I went. I was trying to go for 100 meter underwater. At the time, I'd only done a 75. And I thought I was going to get that extra, length of the pool. And, man, sure enough, I'm going along and everything's going good. So I get my 50 meters, start getting the guppy in pretty good, where your buddy is like,
yeah.
And, so I'm getting the guppy in, pretty solid. And then the guppy in goes away, at about the time I hit the wall for 75, the guppy in goes away and I get this euphoric kind of feeling, which after the fact, I get to talk to some folks that have been through similar, and they're like, oh yeah, man, you get the euphoria. That's the adrenaline hitting. And then it goes south from there. So,
in Ranger Battalion, we used to call that seeing the wizard.
That's exactly what we called it too. Seeing the wizard would have been that would have been the guppian. And then after that, normally people see the wizard and they bail. They pop off all their kit and they just fight with the instructor to get out of the pool to go quit. That's the wizard. That's what we called it anyway. So push off the wall and, man, I get into a good glide and I'm feeling good. And, normally I did all my swims without goggles on, so I wouldn't have noticed this, but I had goggles on and I started seeing stars. Like, when you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So I started seeing stars, and then I saw 2 red walls in my peripheral vision. And then the next thing I knew, I was on the side of the pool. And this dude was doing fucking batshit. slapped me a little. He didn't know what to do, so he was kind of just shaking me. And, of course I woke up, you know, you cough a little bit of water. Your body just knows you don't breathe underwater. So, I coughed a little bit. I woke up, had a really bad headache. And that dude was like, yep, I ain't doing this. So basically, he's like, yeah, you were going along and then you just kind of curled up and you were laying on the bottom of the pool. I'm like, oh, okay. So, it ended up that, I ended up drowning 4 different times. That was one of them in the selection. But, that was the only time that nobody had their hands on me that I drowned. So, which was kind of, you know, it was interesting. That's where you kind of get past that point where you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. It doesn't matter what they do to me. I know that I'm probably not going to die. They're just going to wake me up and you'll move out. So, that was a big turning point for me. So I went back to selection the 3rd time, made it through. I was the only controller in my class that started with 110. And it took me 3 teams to get there. So I don't know what the percentage is on that. There were, 5 other pararescuemen. Oh, here's what I didn't say. So, halfway through my first team, there was a clear division between the controllers and the PJ, instructors. The PJs had all gone through the OLH. All of the OLH was our first selection. The controllers, most of them didn't. And in fact, some of them had actually quit the OLH, went CCT, and then came back to be instructors, which really, didn't, improve the relationship between the PJs and controller and instructors. So, man, we're sitting in, one of the classroom sessions. We do like dive physics and stuff like that in the afternoons before we hit the pool again. And the instructors came in and they're like, hey, let me tell you what a PJ does and what a controller does, what the training is like, and then what you do on a normal day, which ironically, you know, 2 months into it, you would have thought that we would have known that. But this was the day that they introduced themselves. So like, all right, man, PJ comes up and he's like, yeah, man, you know, they tell Vietnam stories and they're just freaking ridiculous guys. They're just awesome, right? So these guys are just hard as woodpecker lip and, really, you know, this is Memorial Day and geez, everything that they do is just awesome. They risk their lives to save other people and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, oh man, that's incredible. And then he's like, yeah, man, you'll go from here and you'll go to scuba school, then you'll go to free fall school, then you'll go to SEER school. You'll get all our schools up front, right? After that, initial selection, boy, you get in the rest of the pipeline, we call it, and, boy, it gets good. You're like a rock star, right?
Yeah.
So, the day I left selection, I went to Special Forces scuba school. And it was awesome. Ended up being on, swim team 1. So I was, you know, you're a pretty good swimmer at that point and, you think you're unstoppable at least. So this guy comes in and he's like, yeah, we do this and this, and then we get to pararescue school, which is where you put all those other schools together. You go out to the field phase. Do you know, Diori Dominguez?
Yeah, I know, dude.
So D taught out there for a while and they were so fortunate to get somebody like D. I love them.
Yeah.
But, so he taught their, field phase for a while and grappling, believe it or not. Big surprise. But,
yeah.
He's like, yeah, man, and then we all become paramedics. So we go through this. So, you get to do catheters on each other. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, whoa, catheter. Is that the catheter I'm thinking of or a different catheter? Must be different. He's like, yeah, man, so you gotta be gentle because, you gotta stick this tube up your buddy's dick. And if you're rough, he does you next, so you better be good. It's like tandem jumping, right? Except it's fucking completely gay and horrible at the same time. I was pumping the brakes in my head, but I didn't say anything yet. And then the controller stands up and he's like, yeah, man, we go out, we do all the stuff PJs do, all the same schools. But, you know, he basically said everything but we don't grab anybody's dick. We do demolitions, we do air traffic control. At the time, airstrikes weren't really a big thing with combat control. But they said, we do some terminal guided operations. They weren't big into CAS at that point, which is kind of crazy to think about. And then so I was like, so I raised my hand and I was like, hey, how do I switch over to be a controller from a PJ? Like in the middle of the class. Said that. And oh my God, all the controllers started grinning, and all the PJs just, man, they destroyed me. They pulled me out of class and they just fucked me up. And did thereafter for the rest of that team, which is, I like to think probably why I didn't graduate that team. But I ended up, I did my 3 teams and graduated and went to Pope. And, luckily we supported the guys, across the street there, that supported you guys. Yeah. And, got to do pretty good amount of hero worship there and kind of laid my path out for me. So I did a couple of deployments with the, quote unquote regular SF guys. And then I, went to another year-long assessment. So my pipeline was 2.5 years, and then, our OTC for my old place was about a year. And then my very first deployment, I got lucky. So I'll take a break for a sec.
Wow, man, yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand, especially kids today, they don't understand the dedication it takes. But I'll also say is, there's no more mystery with the internet. You know what I mean? When you went, you had no fucking clue, right? You were just like, well, yeah, I want to do this, right? And you stayed with it because of that. I think kids today, because of the internet, right? They want to know everything ahead of time. And I don't fucking think that helps at all. You know what I mean?
So, check this out from a counterpoint, point of view. Yeah. Think about, when you and I went in, how you went in, it was, probably right around Somalia. You went to the Ranger Regiment, big old balls.
I went in before that. I was in before that.
Before Somalia, right?
Yeah. So, 90. I joined.
So, I went in 91. I was going to go work on cruise missiles. There was no war going on. There was this little Gulf War thing that came and went pretty quick. And then, there were some guys that did a thing in Somalia that you wouldn't know about for another 10 years or so, right? If you were me. And then, but you think about now, man, we're in the longest war that I think that we've been in our history. And these young kids that we're picking on have fucking seen that. Their dads may have been in the same war. And they're going in knowing full well that they're gonna fucking get scraped up. They're gonna get blown up, fucked up. And I tell you, it's easy to pick on young kids, but the kids that are joining know full well what they're getting into. And that's hard when you don't know how you're gonna deal with it. You and I, we got to train up for it, and we got to get our minds right and everything. These kids are like, man, if I'm going in, I know that, and they may not have a realistic perception of what it is, but, completely realistic. They may think that they're going to, go in straight into, into the shit, and they end up being a bus driver or something. But there's a whole lot of these kids that are like, yep, I'm joining and I know that I'm going to go to war. I didn't go in knowing that. And, so it takes a lot.
People joined for the college money back then.
Yeah, I did. Certainly.
Yeah.
Ironically, I barely used it, but, it's just a different perspective where the kids nowadays, a lot of you guys' sons, fuck, man, they've watched you come and go. They've watched you lose a lot of your friends. They've watched people just get fucked up in the worst ways, and they still raise their hand. So I've got a good amount of respect for them, honestly.
I got 2 in the Army.
I figured, I was tracking one, and I was thinking, probably both. That's crazy. Either one of them at the regiment?
No.
No?
No.
That'd be rough, man.
The commando gene skips a generation, I guess.
That's all right, my friend.
No, hey, I never tried to push what I did on anybody, because the truth is like, Yeah, I hear this all the time. Like, people are, like, reflecting on their past. And, it's always this, metaphorical, there's two roads you could go down. Why did you end up on the road you were on? Motherfucker, you're assuming that I see two roads. I'll tell you what my path was. I was in the middle of the jungle just trying to find my way to the next whatever the fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So it's like, having said that, I never try to push what I do on my boys because, man, that's such a hard path. And let's be honest, whether it's your work or my work, how many guys at 4-year-old are going to be like, I'm going to be a CCT or I'm going to be, a unit sniper or assaulter, right? And stay with that till they're there. You know what I mean? So I never tried to push any of that on my boys. You know what I mean? And they're just starting out. And the truth is like, it's the same story as you. They go, they see what the big machine is like, and they're like, this is dumb. I should probably do something else, right?
Dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, it's funny. So, let's keep going. What do we got? What do we got?
All right. Let's talk about desert mobility.
Okay. I've seen it done right, and I've seen it wrong.
Okay, so you were on a mobility trip across the desert, heading toward Baghdad.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So it was a little different. I got to do. So it's funny because I did the invasion of Afghanistan. I did the desert mobility there too with some Navy dudes. They didn't historically do desert mobility, and I hadn't at that point either, and it showed. So when I went with the Army guys, I hadn't done a desert mobility other than the combat deployment that I did. We spent 15 days in the field driving all around Afghanistan, locked down Kandahar. We locked down the last LOC going into Kandahar and did that. And I was like, okay, yeah, man, I'm squared away at desert mobility now. A lot of hard lessons learned. And then, man, we did it. And of course, you guys did it every quarter. You had vehicles that were built for it. We stole vehicles from, we didn't steal them, but we got them from SF guys in Kuwait. And they sent them over to us. So they were at a big depot in Kuwait. So they weren't our vehicles. You guys had purpose-built vehicles that you had patterned your TTPs off of the SAS guys since, World War II or so.
1941. 1941. Yeah,
apples
for real, right?
and fucking hand grenades different. Like actually knowing your fuel consumption rates before you step out on the mission, pretty good thing to know.
Hey, so if we're gonna go X distance, we need X fuel. Right? We need to have that now.
Yes. So we took those Humvees and we drove them around the airfield in Masira, Oman to try to figure out our fuel consumption before we left.
Not the same.
Not really the same. So I didn't have the benefit of doing one of those desert mobilities because I didn't do a true alert prior. It was I bounced from my deployment with you and got directly assigned over to the other guys. The other Army dudes that I worked with forever. Yeah. And, man, I didn't have a whole lot of background with it. So I kind of fell in. Luckily, they didn't ask a whole lot of me other than to just fucking create shock and awe. So I got put in the tub. So the Gower has, you got the driver, you got the TC, you got the tub, which is behind those two seats. Yeah. That's where you got your radio, panel, which is my bread and butter. And then you've got a top gunner that's over top of you. And then you've got, the tail gunner that's got another 240 on the back. Pretty much everybody has, heavy machine guns or medium machine guns. And I had my trusty rusty old M4 and a whole bunch of radios. So, man, we left out from, Saudi. We drove up. We weren't allowed to invade from Saudi, so we drove up to Jordan and we stole some bulldozers and we bulldozed the berm. And then we had a bunch of helicopters that were supporting us, and a whole bunch of fighters that were just tapped to us. It's called TF Tiger. It's pretty cool. So, man, we bulldoze the berm and we get to getting. So we're going to be, our whole job in life was to create this shock and awe, right? They told us you just need to fuck some stuff up. There weren't really too many collateral concerns other than your own morality. You didn't have to go through a whole lot of approval processes to do stuff. Military objectives is what we were going after, and goodness gracious, there were plenty of them. And our whole job at the time, other than that shock and awe, was to try to find these the weapons of mass destruction, right? So if you had those, you'd probably want to put those on an Air Force base, and you'd probably want to guard them with a few thousand folks, and then have plans to back off and hit the guys with chemical weapons when you back off. So that was all the assumptions that we had. We're going to hit a couple of Air Force bases. We're going to breach the couple hundred weapon storage bunkers in the weapon storage facility at each one of these bases as we bound across western Iraq. We're going to look for Scuds because that's a thing. And if we see any Scuds, we're going to suppress and neutralize them. And then our end state was, of course, we wanted to find the all-damning weapons of mass destruction, and then we want to creep on over, and it'll make for a good little deployment to go ahead and pick up this guy Saddam and to crit on the way out. So that's what we decided to do. It was pretty cool.
Just that. Pretty simple. Shouldn't take long.
Pretty simple.
Straightforward.
We got to go in, I think it was about 2 days prior to the invasion kicking off. We got to sneak in. Back, I think that he was still going, hey man, we need another 24 hours. We need another 24. And then we jumped off. So we hit Haditha, H3, all of these airfields. And it was neat. They had these DSU and ZPU 23-2s and 4s, which are big fucking 4-barrel, you know what they are, the 4-barrel anti-aircraft guns that are analog as fuck. They had some S-60s. Now, you gotta keep in mind, you know this, but for the rest of the folks, the Penscowers weren't armored. So it was like driving a Jeep, right? With all the goodness and not good with driving a Jeep across a desert. So, you didn't have windows to block sandstorms, you didn't have heaters, and it was cold. And most importantly, you didn't have armor, because that would have slowed you down and all of that. So, not that we were really going real fast, but, so we didn't have any armor. So we couldn't take, direct lay from, S-60. So your, ZPUs and ZSU 23-2s and 4s, they had about a 20%, declination. So they couldn't lay flat down. But the S-60s, which had help me out, is it 20 millimeter? An S-60? Yeah. 20 millimeters, so bigger than you want to get shot at.
For real. For real.
And they can lay down 90 degrees. So they can lay down flat at you, and if they know you're there, man, the gig is up. So, light discipline, noise discipline, all that stuff, really makes a difference when you've got something that can lay down and shoot through everybody all at once. So, we snuck up. We had these forward, or, FLIRs that are on our vehicles, kind of like on a periscope. So we're checking shit out. And then, man, we started doing, me and Jay, we're in kind of a, bounding. So Jay had one echelon and I had another. I was in the lead vehicle on one and Jay was in the lead vehicle on the other. He went through the built up part of the Air Force base, and I got to deal with all the enemy air defenses, all the, AAA. So, it would have been real cool and easier if that were the only thing that was going on, because we had a whole task force of aircraft overhead. But, man, what we didn't have and what we didn't tell anybody, because we were super awesome, was that, we were on the ground. So you had Southern Watch and Northern Watch, which were, ongoing campaigns to stop any aircraft from flying in Iraq, that thing that went on for literally years.
Yeah.
So part of that is you've got really, really good contention. So you've got jammers, you've got GPS jammers, GPS spoofers, and you've got comm jamming that goes on. And normally you would tell the good guys that you're on the ground, unless you're shady as fuck. And then you don't tell the good guys that you're on the ground. So we had to go against the most elegant contention on the planet in our own guys. So as we've got this task force that's overhead, as soon as I started keying the radio, bomb, all my radios are kicked off. There's these big tones that are just blasting away. And at the time, Jay and I, we weren't on the same fire direction net. In time, we would realize that maybe it's better. There was so much traffic that maybe it was the right decision, but it exacerbated the issue. So we're like, crap, man, you can't jackrabbit. You're getting comms that are broken coming through. You can't jump to another freak because it's broad spectrum contention. So you're just having to suffer through it, and it gets fairly frustrating, right? So you get to talking louder and louder, and then you got the random army guy that punches you and says, "Hey man, there's S-60s right there. I'd rather not be eating that." So you're like, all right. So then you get into the GPS jamming and spoofing. So they, I think my GPS was 43 miles off. So I'm trying to get coordinates on the closest AAA battery that I can see, and it's 43 miles away. So then we have to go analog as fuck. So I get my IR pointer and I shoot one of the 23-2s with my IR pointer. Of course, it's tabletop flat, right? There's no hills, there's no nothing in that part of the country. So I sparkle the 23-2. I call the airstrike somehow, and one of them, 3 behind it, blows up. And I'm like, getting good secondary off of it, and I'm like, all right, that's fucking cool, but not necessarily what we wanted. We want the closest because we want to be able to bound past him, right? So I said, okay, immediate reattack, same target. Sparkle the same one again. Boom, another one blows up. Get good secondary. So I'm like, all right, valid target. That's cool, but still didn't kill who I wanted to kill. So then, and you're still doing battle with all the jamming and everything else, man. So I've got 2 good secondaries. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. So let's do a walking stick. So I've got 2 big, huge fireballs that are just lighting off. I said, man, use that as a unit of measure. I want you to come back towards friendlies, 1 unit of measure, and tell me what you see. And he's like, oh, I see a 23-2. So I said, all right, that is your actual target. So we started using the walking stick method rather than IR pointers because they were hitting so many of these things. There were hundreds of them out there, brother. And they were hitting so many of them that you couldn't get the one that you wanted. So we used that unit of measure walking stick.
Yeah.
So as we got finished with all of those, we think about Highway 10 that cuts across the U.S., right? Well,
yeah.
they, as you probably well know, they have a Highway 10 as well, and it's called Highway 10. It bisects the country. So as we fought our way up to Highway 10, the weapons storage area is on the north side of it. And then, as with any weapons storage area that I'm familiar with, like my old first job, you always have a mass alert facility where all the cops sit around and play grab ass and eat their donuts and all that. So you got the gate, so you've got a real high fence around it, and then you got a gate, you got the gate guards, and then you've got a mass alert facility, and everybody goes out from there and guards the structures. So same way. So we get up to that, and there was an aircraft that came the wrong direction and tried to fucking blow us up because it was sort of squirrely. But we get up to there, and everything's cool. And somehow, I guess because I was in the lead vehicle, they said, okay, Ed, you need to hop out of the tub and you need to hop into the driver's seat of this Gower, right? So I'm like, all right, cool, man. I just have an entire Air Force overhead that I'm talking to and the comms are jammed and my GPS.
Maybe I shouldn't be the driver right now.
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and drive this vehicle. And they're like, well, yeah, all the assaulters are hanging off the side of the vehicle, so you better not drive fast, but you better not drive slow either. Because basically what they're going to do is they're going to hang onto the side of the Gower. We're going to go through the gate and then turn and then go back into an alert facility that's like 40, 50 meters inside the gate, right? that we have to drive a beam to. So he's on the other side of this transparent chain link fence that's underneath streetlights. Did I mention the streetlight? So, yeah, and no armor. So there's that. So we get up and we kind of check it out. We send one dude. I'm not going to say who it is, but he, you know how you guys do the aggregate, right? So we had these really super badass shooting coaches, Jerry Barnhart and Micklick, and who was the third one that they were like 1,
Rob.
2, and 3, and Rob Lake. So literally we had 1, 2, and 3 shooting coaches in the world at the time that were our coaches, right? And then they do the aggregate score, so that the best guy, I thought that it was just bragging rights. Everybody that walks past goes, fuck, man, that guy's awesome. But it ended up when they said, hey, man, we need a guy to go in and take down this small building, and we don't know how many people are inside, and we can't sneak that many people across. They sent him. And he went in, and I don't know if it was 4 or 7 people, but he went 1B7 and suppressed the gate, and then he called us up and he's like, hey, man, it's open. So they said, all right, Ed, drive on past. So, man, this road is parallel to Mass Alert facility, and it's probably 25 meters away from it, right on the other side of a chain link fence. And then there's street lights that are right on the fence. We couldn't shoot the street lights out because then they would have known we were there. Because right now they thought that it was just Northern Watch and Southern Watch. They thought that it was just the air campaign. It was really fucking effective that day. So
right. Just out of luck, right? Just out of luck.
Yeah.
Hey, these guys are good.
These guys are getting better. So they didn't know anybody was on the ground, and we wanted to keep it that way as late as possible. So the gig was up, and we're like, all right, let's fucking do it. So we're driving like 10, 15 miles an hour. We drive past the gate. That guy hops on board the vehicle, and then we go in. Well, as we get past, before we even get to pick that guy up, we get a beam the Mass Alert facility. All the windows blow out, and they just start spraying our fucking vehicle. And it gets fairly emotional, right? Because you're just taking it right in the ass.
Yeah.
So we just picked up the GMGs. Remember the GMGs, brother? The Mark 19 replacements from H&K?
Yep.
So we had sent our loggies, and they went to Germany, and they picked these things up. And we did some test firing, I guess somebody did some test firing on them or whatever, and they were good. So we get a beam to it. Of course, all the assaulters are hanging on the side of the vehicle, so our EOD guy was on the Top Gun. He was on the GMG. And so he spins around and just starts laying into the side of this fucking building, and we're expecting some good Hollywood explosion. However, they hadn't armed because they hadn't twisted enough because the building was that fucking close to us that all these guys were in. So now they're coming back at us, right? So they're going low order. They haven't spun. They inertially arm for everyone else that's on the phone. They inertially arm, and the impact fuse wasn't set yet because they didn't spin enough, as I understood it.
Instead of grenades, you're shooting slugs.
Yep, potatoes. So the potatoes are just flying everywhere, though. Man, he's going nuts on it. And it's a fantastic weapon. And he knows better than anybody because he's an EOD guy. But, man, when that's all you got, you get to get.
Yeah,
so we drive past, we pick up Stink, and then he hops on the side. We go up, and there's probably 7 guys on the front porch. And we're probably about 15, 20 meters away from him. And this is all from my perspective, and maybe 20 years and a whole lot of me pissing in my pants between now and then. So this is the way I remember it. So we come in, and the guys are on the porch, and they are just fucking eating up the front of our vehicle. Well, Glenn is just still going on that damn Top Gun, right? And I don't blame him. I would have been doing all of that, throwing poop at him. And the magic bullet, man, this thing for some reason spun, and it armed. Oh, as we pull up, the Army guys, you guys hop off, and they run up and they just fucking smoke the guys on the front porch. It's just like that, man. And they're running from there, but between them jumping off the vehicle and shooting them, Glenn he hasn't checked fire yet on the Top Gun. So he hits the front of the building, one of the potatoes armed, and it comes back and it hits my fucking grill in the pin scout, which is literally, if I stood up, I could put my hand in the hole. So it blows this thing out, and it was right underneath the PVC pipes that we had with all the C4, and about 2 feet beneath the tow missiles and Carl Gustavs that we had on the bar. It goes right above my head, right? All kinds of high explosives and all kinds of high drama. So, man, Army guys run in, and it's just like you ever wanted to see, man. It was just beautiful from my perspective. Got a Viper because I'm still doing air support. So I got a Viper that calls me up and he's like, man, there's people spilling out of the back. So I'm telling the team leader, hey, we got squirters running out of the back. These guys go through, and Lord knows, I don't know how many people they get inside the building. But they're done in about a half a second, of course, because, well, you know. Yeah. And the Viper ends up vectoring us over to pick some people up out of the back. A couple folks that made it out of the back, and then they went away. And then we got to hand breach 250 bunkers with crowbars.
Yes. Oh.
Before the sun went down, and we had to recover my Dower because it was hard broke. So we hooked up to it. We towed it to a 47. Had to take everything off of it because it has to be naked before you can cram that in the cram hole in a 47.
Yeah. Did they bring you a new one?
Yep, they had another one. Of course, you guys were completely squared away, so they had another one that was already prepped before we even left. Yeah. So they put that prepped one on the 47. It lands there. We throw everything back on it, and then we find a remain over day site, right, a rod site. And everything was cool, you know. It was just like you had planned it. We spent another day driving. We hit the next base. The next night was when the war kicked off on our second base, and that one was it was just as sporty. It was fucking awesome, bro. It was just really cool. And then we ended up in a town called Haditha. So Haditha was, of course, at the base of the Haditha Dam, the third largest dam in the world. Yep. And all of our intel folks said, man, if somebody's going to be hiding some WMDs and they didn't put them in the Air Force bases, the most secure place in that whole country is underneath that dam. Because I got to talk with a bunch of brainiac scientists before we left. We got to tour a bunch of dams all over the U.S. and see how they're built, see what it looks like on the inside of them, so we knew how to clear them better. Know, kind of what to expect. So the first time we saw a dam of this magnitude, it wasn't when we were in a full-on firefight with half of Iraq. So that was really cool, man. And I basically said, okay, it was kind of my job to figure out what the fusing was, if we needed to breach the dam for some reason, if we were being overrun. And so I was supposed to figure out the fusing for the munitions to take it. And the guy's like, yeah, you don't understand. This is like 200 feet of reinforced concrete. It's like the highest pressure concrete that God has ever come up with. You're not breaching that with anything but a nuke. So, have fun. So I was like, okay, well, that's good to know. So
good. Hey, good info. If it comes to it, I'll call for it.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, my fallback plan is just to annihilate this fucking city of 200,000 people when I breach this dam and yada, yada, yada. So, and of course it never came to that. The poor Rangers, man, they took it from us. Well, back up just a second. So we get there. Nobody knows that we're there yet. We said, we've got a remain over day site that's outside of town. Another notable thing other than the dam that's in Haditha is, man, it's the Western Front. So, Saddam had, 4 divisions of tanks there, and, there were a couple of big military objectives, but most importantly, there were 4 divisions of fucking tanks there. So, Jay Hill and I would go down. We had, he went down into town, and I went on the edge of town riding bitch on the back of a 4-wheeler. And, man, I called, strikes from the ridge line, and Jade called them 360 degrees around him. He's another controller like me. Best controller I ever met. You should interview him instead of me. But, maybe next time. You should. So man, we killed 4 tank divisions in 4 days with a 5-watt radio and Love in Our Heart. And then on the 5th day, they were doing the battle for Baghdad, and they thought that there was a Western front that was coming in, that we were doing the Schwarzkopf. So they flexed another 5th division over to us from the Battle of Baghdad on the 5th day, the Hammurabi division, as I understood it. So we ended up doing 5 tank divisions in 5 days with 2 guys. And that was one of my proudest achievements, I think. So, man, we never let anybody know that we were in town, and that was a good thing. The Rangers came in and they seized the dam and they planted a flag, and it got really ugly, real bad for them. Number of, real high level awards came out of that. Scott Birch, I don't know him personally, but, he did the Lord's work there with a sniper rifle, as I understood. And a lot of good people.
Ironhead.
You probably know him. He was probably with you, wasn't he?
He was my squadron sergeant major for a while.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, long story. He didn't get the unit, went to the Rangers, became the Ranger Regimental Sergeant Major, brought an FR-25, and was just schwacking dude. He told me the next morning they were sitting on top of the dam by the flag, and some lone round comes in, hits the pipe that he was sitting on, and fragged his ass.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, man, we left Haditha unscathed, and we drove up north, to, well, I can go on with this damn thing. Where are we at for time, brother?
We're at our limit, and I'd like to stop it here only because, like, maybe we got to do this again because we didn't even get to our trip. You know what I mean?
Oh, no. No, the fun story is, well, I've got a couple of
yeah.
But, it got real nasty, 2 days later. So, we definitely need to do this again if you'll have me. I'd love it.
Yeah, let's do it in a couple weeks. Let's do it.
All right, my friend.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. I'm John Shrek McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad. I'm here with, one of my best friends, Ed. Ed, close us out. What do you want to tell everybody about CCTers or anything? What do you want to say?
I'll tell you that they're still hiring. They still need great guys. And man, they're still getting after it. Just the best community, and like the Air Force guys are cool, but they also have the opportunity to work with just the best that there is. And I believe it. And it's the most wonderful job. It's not really a consolation prize, but, like knowing everybody that I know that's out there, I would have still been a controller. I think that Shrek's job was sexy as hell, but, I think that being a controller suited me, just fine. So, I really appreciate your time, Shrek.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. All right, guys. We're going to close it out. Ed, I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Yes, sir. Yeah.